One of the things that I think that is important to understand about how the different generations, maybe the generation X or Y as opposed to the millennials, deal with the aftermath of 9/11. Their worldview was shaped in a sense that things like this do happen, and they do happen in our country. So those who were of older generations and had not experienced that, and all the wars were fought in Europe or someplace else, we who are older were much more shocked and thrown by that than folks who are just kind of, oh, this happened, let me figure out how to deal with it, and now it's a part of the world. For all of us now, we look back at 9/11 as kind of a turning point.
My name is Caroline. I'm 20 years old. I'm from Houston, Texas, and I was 9 years old when September 11th happened.
My name is Bonnie Black. I'm from New York, and I'm currently 20, and I was 9 when September 11th happened.
My name's Seamus McCabe. I'm from Boston. I'm 21 years old, and September 11th, 2001 was my 11th birthday. I woke up for school probably around 7 a.m. My mom hung some balloons on my doorknob, to my room, woke me up, said happy birthday. I went downstairs, took a shower, got dressed, and ate breakfast. I got on the bus to go to school, and nothing had happened yet, so no one knew anything about it. And then by the time I got to school, probably around 9:30, all the teachers had been in their break room watching the news. And so when we got into homeroom and I had cupcakes and I kept saying, oh, happy birthday to me, I had a big smile on my face, and my homeroom teacher, looked straight at me kind of with a skeptical look, sort of like shocked, like, oh my God, this kid doesn't even know that this is happening on his birthday.
If you looked south of the island, it immediately just went black. And then if you looked going north, it was still clear blue skies. We were so close that you could look and just immediately see where it was coming from, and it was kind of billowing out towards the rest of the island and stuff. So we were close enough. We weren't in danger of being there, but you were close enough to kind of feel the same fear. It was strong enough there.
I went at the beginning of August of 2001. My mom had a business thing in New Jersey, and we ended up going up for a weekend. It was my first time to visit New York, and we went and saw the sights. And I remember going up to the towers. I don't know which tower it was, but they had this exhibit at the top, and they had this where you could look out the windows, and they had this movie theater, and it was almost like a helicopter tour, like a movie of the towers. And I remember when I was first told, I felt opposed to my classmates, I actually got it because I had been up there the month before, and the memory was fresh. And all I could think about was someone who was like me or my parents or whoever was sitting watching that movie when the tower was struck by a plane. I mean, I felt like that's, and even when I think about it today, that's what I think of, is someone else was watching that movie, and then that person, those people were dead.
I was not knowing exactly what was going on, and not knowing where you were safe, or if there was going to be another attack, or if there was more to come. And it was just, everyone was kind of out on the street and scrambling to get somewhere, but we weren't even sure where that somewhere was, or where that somewhere would be safe or not.
Their world has been shaken upside down, and they don't have the ability to express or to be told, this event has turned your world upside down, now we've got to turn it right side up, whereas an adult at least has the cognitive capacity to do that.
I didn't get it. I got it, it was gone, they were down. But I didn't get why. It's I didn't understand. And, people on the news are throwing around this word terrorist. It's what does that mean?
I got off the bus, my dad met me, he walked me home like it was a normal day. He got down on one knee in front of me and explained the whole situation, that terrorists had attacked us, and that, there was probably going to be a lot of things changing after the fact. It wasn't until a few years later they told me that they hadn't want me to hear anything about it because, you know, they wanted it to be my birthday and not a, you know, national tragedy to ruin it.
We didn't know where we were going, and we didn't know what we were going to be doing next. And, like, part of me legitimately thought, like, you know, if this might be the last time I, like, ever talked to my dad. And I was just, like, I was so almost, like, convinced of that. So I was just, like, I'm going to keep him on this phone, like, as long as possible. To suddenly, like, try and, like, accept that this could potentially be the last time you ever, like, talk to your dad or talk to your mom or something. And it was bizarre to be so convinced of that. Like, that was never something I'd ever had a fear of before. That was never something that had ever crossed my mind before. And I think the pure fact that it even did made me think, like, okay, like, it probably is then. Like, you know, I've never had, like, thoughts or fears like that before, so this must be, like, legit.
Really, the only thing that went through my head was I couldn't possibly celebrate my birthday because so many thousands of people had died and their families were all in mourning. So I just stopped. You know, I was supposed to have a birthday party that next weekend, and I canceled it, and didn't have another one until I turned 21, 10 years later.
When we think about emotional connections, we often think of people. But we also can associate moments and times in our lives and places that we go with emotions. Each one of us has a certain memory that we associate with a place.
And I remember going through, like, scenarios of, like, what would I have done? And I remember even thinking, like, at a young age, like, I would have jumped. Because, you know, I saw images of people who had jumped. And I remember having, like, nightmares about it for a week or weeks after, and it was, like, this recurring nightmare of me, like, not being able to breathe in this theater, and, like there were flames even at the top of the tower, and then jumping off.
The automatic thing for a lot of New Yorkers was to, like, not talk about it after a while. Like, really just, like, don't discuss it. Like, we did it, and now our only option really is to, like, move on.
The adults were like, this is sad, like, this is sad, be sad. And then you're like, oh, yeah, you're right, this is sad. And then they're like, wait, don't be too sad. Like, we're far away, don't be too sad. It's like, okay.
All we all really wanted to do was, like, go back to being kids. Because it was like, you're really young and all of a sudden you got this, like, jolt of, like, reality. You get this jolt of, like, how bad things, like, can potentially be, and, like, how scary things can potentially be.
I was upset, and they were like, well, Caroline, like, you need to have the appropriate level of sadness, just because, you know, we don't know anyone, like, it's very sad, but, you know, it's a little over the top.
Once we got back to school, it was really just, you know, desperately trying to, like, be little again.
I mean, I felt like it was more, all right, let's talk about it, like, the week after, and maybe 2 weeks, but after that, like, you know, you're fine. Like, you're far away.
When I was probably 15 or 16, I know there were those jokes going around about 9/11. I don't remember any of them, but a few people were starting to make, you know, Al-Qaeda jokes or Osama bin Laden jokes. And people started saying, you know, oh, we can't really joke about that until it's been 10 years later. Like, 10 years after the fact is, you know, it's okay, it's in the past. And so that's kind of the rule I lived by, which is, you know, it was my 11th birthday, 10 years later when I turned 21, I'll throw a party. And that was, you know, sort of how I viewed it the whole time. And once I turned 21, I just felt like it was okay to celebrate it, and I don't care if anyone said otherwise.
Many people may say that, you know, folks are between 19 and 21 so saturated with media and so saturated with violent images that they're desensitized. I think related to 9/11, I don't think that they are incredibly desensitized. I think when there is something that is out of the norm like that, I think they still have a reaction like anyone.
If I had to sum up 9/11 in one word, I think it would be unnecessary.
And for me, it was confusing. I guess that's the best way to put it, because I felt like there were a lot of conflicting emotions the whole day. Like for me, I was really happy, but at the same time really sad that, that it happened to people. Whether I knew them or not, it had happened to people, innocent people. And so, I guess confusing is the best word to describe how I felt about it.
It's just people going to work, people trying to go about their daily business, people getting on a plane to go home or go somewhere, and it was just unnecessary.
Like home? I mean, like, as cheesy as that is, like, that's the first thing I think of. Like, it's kind of like, because it is, like, such a personal thing, and you do, I mean, there could be, like, all those other words where it's, like, terrorist and, like, sad and, like, stuff like that, but it's more so because it affected, like, me and my, parents on a much more personal, invasive way. It kind of, that's the first place my mind goes, more so.